This is the sad and unresolved disappearance of Curtis and Marjorie Chillingworth. Curtis Chillingworth was born to an upper-class family in 1896. Curtis was more than a rich white boy, he was local royalty. He graduated from the University of Florida in 1917 and was admitted to the Florida Bar a few months later. He joined the United States Naval Academy and served in 2 world wars. Between his stints in war, Chillingworth married the love of his life, Marjorie McKinley, and had 3 daughters. In 1921, Chillingworth became the youngest person to ever hold a circuit judge position. He was only 24. This title he would hold for 32 years until his disappearance in 1955. Curtis was last seen with his wife Marjorie at a dinner in West Palm Beach, Florida, on June 14, 1955. They left the dinner at approximately 10 p.m. to return to their home in the 200 block of Dyer Road in Manalapan, Florida. Curtis and Marjorie had hired a carpenter to build a playground for their grandchildren at their home. The carpenter arrived as scheduled at 8 a.m. on June 15th and found the house deserted and the door open. Authorities went to search the Chillingworth residence at noon. The porch light was shattered and there were blood drops on the walkway to the beach. The Chillingworth swimming suits were left behind, as was some cash. Curtis's Plymouth was located at the residence, with the keys still in the ignition. An extensive search turned up no sign of either Curtis or Marjorie. They were declared legally dead in 1957 and were given a headstone in Oaklawn Cemetery in West Palm Beach. In 1960, Joseph Alexander Peel Jr. was charged with murdering the Chillingworths. He was the judge for West Palm Beach in 1955 and noted for his corruption and incompetence. Joseph Peel was the polar opposite of the Honourable Judge Chillingworth. While the elder was a stern upholder of the law, the younger was a rowdy playboy who loved to manipulate it. Peel was all about making money and living a flashy lifestyle. In 1953, Peel represented both the wife and the husband in a divorce case. This unethical manipulation of the law earned him a hearing with the higher-ranking judge, Curtis Chillingworth. Considering his youth, Chillingworth gave Peel a warning but declared it would be the final one. In retaliation, Peel ordered Hossafel to kill the Chillingworths. Hossafel confessed to the Chillingworths murders in 1960. He stated he and a friend, George Bobby Lincoln, had killed Curtis and Marjorie together. At Peel's trial, Lincoln and Hossafel stated they had taken Curtis and Marjorie out into the ocean on a boat, taped their hands, strapped lead weights to their bodies, and threw them overboard still alive. Curtis was still able to swim in spite of his taped hands and the weights. Lincoln and Hossafel hit him with a shotgun, but he continued to float. They had to pull him back onto the board and put an additional weight on him before he sank. Lincoln and Hossafel stated they had not received payment from Peel for committing the murders. The bodies of Curtis and Marjorie Chillingworth have not been found to this day. The case of Raynard Murray. Raynard Murray was born on 1st January 1982 and she lived in Glenageary, South Dublin. Raynard spent the evening of the 3rd of September 1999 socialising in Scott's pub on Georgia Street, Dunleary, a place she knew well. She had just finished her shift in the boutique at 9 p.m. It was to be the place where she was last seen alive. She left at approximately 11:20 p.m, planning to meet friends again later, and started the 15-minute walk home. It is believed that she argued with a man described as being in his mid-20s an estimated 25 minutes after leaving the pub in the laneway between Silchester Road and her home in Silchester Park. Raynard was stabbed 4 times in the side, chest and shoulder with a 1.5-inch sharp knife while in Silchester Crescent. Her murderer escaped and Raynard staggered 200 feet before she collapsed and died from her injuries. Her body was found by her sister Sarah 50 yards from her home at 12:20 a.m. on the morning of Saturday, 4th of September. Raynard was not sexually assaulted, nor were her possessions stolen. An investigation was launched, however, a motive has never been found. Raynard Murray's killer has never been identified to this day. The case of Deirdre Jacob. Deirdre Jacob was an Irish woman who disappeared near her home in Newbridge, County Kildare on the 28th of July 1998 at the age of 18. At the time of her disappearance, she had completed her first year as a student teacher at St Mary's University, Twickenham, in the UK. She was last seen at 3 p.m. on the 28th of July 1998. She had gone to the Newbridge branch of AIB to get a bank draft to pay for student accommodation at the university, then went to the post office to post a bank draft. She also visited her grandmother, who owned a shop in the town. The last sighting of her was close to her house on Barrettstown Road. The walk from Barrettstown Road to Deirdre's house would have taken Deirdre just 10 minutes or so, and there were 8 sightings of her on that road. So, by all accounts, whether Deirdre walked down the main street or took shortcuts on her way home, she made it onto the Barrettstown Road, the final stretch of road towards her home. Deirdre was captured on CCTV that fateful day. Deirdre's parents have never been able to move on and still hope that someone with information on their daughter's disappearance will come forward. They have appealed to the public for information several times over the years. In July 2018, on the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, her father called for a dedicated missing persons unit to be set up. Her parents were satisfied that the police in Kildare were doing everything possible to locate their daughter. In August 2018, the police announced that her disappearance was being treated as a murder case. Deirdre Jacob remains missing to this day. The case of Elizabeth Ennan. Elizabeth Ennan disappeared on the 5th of January 2011 from the Carriage House Hotel in Texas. At the time of Elizabeth's disappearance, she was babysitting 2 children for a family friend. That family friend was Humberto Salines Jr. He was heading out to play bingo, so got Elizabeth to babysit his 2 children. Salines went to the Ennans' home directly after in the early hours of the morning. He told her mother, Virginia Ennan, that he had dropped Elizabeth off and had come to return her forgotten purse. But Elizabeth never came in that door. Virginia reported her daughter missing on January 5th, 2011. She was assisted in filing the missing persons report by Salines, who remained at the residence when police arrived. At the time, Salines attempted to blame his own 19-year-old son for her disappearance. After a large-scale search by police, they obtained CCTV footage of Elizabeth's abduction. A warning, this surveillance footage might be hard to watch for some viewers. Humberto Salines murdered Elizabeth Ennan, and on January 20th, 2011, police arrested Salines on charges of aggravated kidnapping. Prior to his arrest, he held a previous criminal record that includes charges of domestic assault, felony theft, and violence on a child. Humberto Salines was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. On January 25, 2011, Elizabeth's body was found in a field near Shallow Water, Texas. The autopsy identified the cause of death as strangulation and was confirmed to have been murdered during the kidnapping timeframe. The case of Fiona Pender. Fiona Pender, 25, of Tullamore, County Offaly, went missing on August 23, 1996. Fiona was last seen at her flat at Church Street, Tullamore at 6 a.m. on Friday 23rd of August 1996. At the time of her disappearance, Fiona was 7 months pregnant and had spent the previous day shopping for baby clothes with her mother in Tullamore. She was in good form and was looking forward to the birth of her baby. Fiona worked as a hairdresser and was also a model. In 2008, a small wooden cross bearing the name Fiona Pender was found on the Slieve Bloom Way at the border between Laois and Offaly, which led to the belief that Fiona was buried in the Slieve Bloom Mountains. In November 2014, police and investigators started a search for Fiona in a wooded area in County Laois, but led to no avail. Fiona Pender remains missing to this day. The case of Bruce Walls. Bruce was a well-known and respected diamond and gemstone dealer who disappeared while visiting West Palm Beach, Florida in 1980. Bruce was a successful diamond dealer who ran his own company called R&W Gem Imports. He would often carry small quantities of precious stones with him on trips to show potential clients. Through this successful business, he had also purchased properties in Hawaii, Canada, and South America. He had invested in businesses at the time. Bruce told a colleague he was going to sell his gemstones to a buyer in the area. Bruce had been in West Palm Beach to visit family members and attend a friend's wedding. On the day of the wedding, Bruce was carrying a briefcase which is believed to have contained over $100,000 worth of diamonds and other precious stones. Bruce had rented a dark red 1980 Mercury Cougar from the Hertz rental company for his trip to West Palm Beach. His car was found abandoned at the Fort Pierce Service Plaza on the southbound Florida Turnpike, with the keys still in the ignition. There was no sign of foul play at the scene, but the vehicle had been driven 500 miles that could not be accounted for. Investigators concluded that Bruce Walls was possibly robbed, and this caused his disappearance. Bruce Walls remains missing to this day. The case of Paddy Adkins. Paddy was last seen departing her place of work at the Honda of America automotive plant in Marysville, Ohio. She clocked out a few seconds after midnight on June 29, 2001, at the end of her second shift. She had worked for the plant for nearly 10 years and had become a supervisor at the assembly line, and she was anticipating a promotion when she disappeared. Adkins had been having an affair with a married co-worker at the time of her disappearance. His name has not been released to the public. She told her loved ones and acquaintances about the relationship and said the man planned to leave his wife to be with her. Adkins gave him approximately $90,000 over several years, depleting her savings accounts and borrowing against her 401k retirement fund. The money was supposed to be so the boyfriend could buy out his share of his and his wife's jointly owned business when he divorced her to be with Adkins. Shortly before she went missing, Adkins told her boyfriend she would need to start repaying the 401k loans soon. Just before she vanished, Adkins told her family and friends she was going on vacation to Canada with her boyfriend. Atkins asked a female friend to drive her to work the night she vanished, so she could leave with her boyfriend to start their vacation. She told her friend that her boyfriend had to give a male co-worker a ride home, and had told her to hide in the bed of his pickup truck until he dropped the other man off. An investigation was launched. Police searched Paddy's house. Her car was still in the driveway, and inside nothing looked out of place. All of her clothes were there, along with her personal items, and there was no evidence of foul play. There was nothing at all to indicate that she would have left on her own accord. Paddy Atkins remains missing to this day. The case of Dennis Martin. Dennis was visiting the Great Smoky Mountains National Park with his father, his grandfather, his older brother, and on June 14, 1969. The family lived in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time. They hiked from Cades Cove to Russell Field, a distance of 10 miles. Their first day then travelled to Spencefield the next day and set up camp there. Upon arriving at Spencefield, the Martins met with a family friend and his siblings. Later that afternoon, the kids were playing in the meadow. William Martin recalled that the boys appeared to be planning a surprise attack and had split off into two groups. Dennis was last seen by his father going behind a tree to hide, intending on surprising the adults with the other children. After not seeing him for about 5 minutes, and when all of the other children had returned to the campsite, his father became concerned and began searching for him. His father ran down the trail for nearly 2 miles until he was sure he could not have gotten any farther. After several hours, they sought help from National Park Service rangers. The search for Dennis involved over 1,400 people and was the largest, most extensive search in the history of the park. The search effort was hampered by heavy rains that hit the area on the evening of June 14th. However, no evidence as to the child's whereabouts was ever located. Dennis Martin was a special education student at the time of his disappearance. He is described as a husky, healthy boy who had hiking and camping experience and wasn't particularly fearful. His case remains unsolved. He is believed to have gotten lost and perished in the park. The case of Lars Mittank. Mittank is a German man who disappeared on July 8, 2014 near Varna Airport in Varna, Bulgaria. On June 30, 2014, 28-year-old Mittank travelled to the seaside resort of Golden Sands, Bulgaria on a vacation with a group of friends. On July 6, 2014, Mittank got into a fight with 4 other men after a disagreement over a football game. The fight resulted in Mittank suffering a ruptured eardrum. At the end of his trip, a doctor advised Lars not to fly due to his injury and prescribed him antibiotics. That doctor later referred him to a hospital. Mittank's friends wanted to stay with him, but he insisted he was fine on his own. After checking into a hotel in Varna called Colour, a day after his friends left, Mittank began to act oddly, and his erratic behaviour was recorded by the hotel's CCTV cameras. He spent only one night in the hotel, during which he appeared paranoid and frightened. While at the hotel, Mittank called his mother. In a whisper, he stated that 4 men were coming to kill him and that she should cancel his credit cards. Mittank was last seen at Varna Airport. He was consulting with the airport doctor there. Mittank then fled the building. He was captured by airport CCTV running away, and once outside the airport, he was seen climbing a fence and running into a meadow and disappearing into an adjacent field of sunflowers near a Bulgarian national highway. Lars Mittank remains missing to this day.
The disappearance of Ruth Baumgartner. Ruth Baumgartner was born circa 1915 in Ohio and she was 22 when she went missing on the 4th of May 1937. She was a senior art major at Ohio Wesleyan University at the time of her disappearance. She belonged to Delta 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 sorority and lived in room 319 in Austin Hall on the campus. On the evening she disappeared, Ruth practiced for a singing competition, then she studied in her dorm for an upcoming test the following day. Her sorority sisters last saw her shortly after 11 p.m. on the 4th of May. Sometime before midnight, she said goodbye to her friends. This would be the last time she would be seen or heard from ever again. Her sorority sisters alerted campus police the following night when they realized she hadn't attended any of her classes. Her dorm key was found near a staircase in the corner of Austin Hall staircase, which is unknown how it got there. Her new red Dodge car was found parked undisturbed in its regular garage with the key still in the ignition. Her room was found to be in perfect order, which is uncharacteristic of her. Her bed was made, her clothes all put away. Her alarm clock was set for 6 a.m. and it is believed she got up at that time and left without being seen. There were reported sightings of her, but none were ever confirmed. There was even a story of a man, along with 3 other men, confessed to kidnapping Ruth and forcing her into prostitution. Police later said they proved his story to be false. The men were initially arrested for killing an Ohio patrolman. Ruth seemed worried about college and whether she would get enough credit hours to graduate on schedule. She wrote to her parents that she was very, very tired. If Ruth is alive today, she would be around 105 years old. So, not very likely, but not impossible. But she is presumed deceased.
The disappearance of Stephanie Crane. On October 11, 1993, Stephanie Crane from Challis, Idaho, went missing. She was 9 years old. She was dropped off at a local bowling alley by her mother. She went bowling with her friends, and then left the bowling alley when they were done. She had been seen walking on Highway 93 at around 6 p.m. It is unclear whether she was supposed to go to the high school across the street for soccer practice, or whether she was going home. 9 o'clock had passed and her parents notified the police. A search covering about 7,000 square miles took place with no sign of her. Police believe that a yellow pickup truck was in the vicinity and that it may have something to do with her disappearance. Keith Hescock has been investigated for possible involvement in Stephanie's case, and also the disappearance of Amber Hoops. Hescock kidnapped a 14-year-old girl from outside her home in the early morning hours of June 5, 2002. He had known her family. The girl was able to escape that afternoon when he went to work, leaving her chained to a bed in his home. When the police attempted to arrest him, Hescock fled in his vehicle and led them on a 40-mile high-speed chase, which ended at a dead-end road in the Big Hole Mountains. There he shot and killed a police dog, shot and wounded an officer, and then committed suicide. Hescock had previously worked for Hoop's grandparents, and his neighbour says he was hunting in Challis the weekend Stephanie disappeared from that location. He also owned a yellow pickup truck similar to the one that may be connected to Stephanie's case. Investigators believe Stephanie was taken against her will by a stranger. Her case remains unsolved. She has 3 younger sisters and is described as a tomboy who was part of the Youth Bowling League and enjoyed going hunting and fishing with her father. Her parents divorced in mid-1994 and both of them are now deceased. Her mother died in 1997 and her father in 2012, both of natural causes. Her sisters and many members of her extended family are still alive. The case of Eva Brennan. Eva Brennan, 39, of Rathgar, County Dublin, went missing on July 25, 1993. She was depressed prior to her disappearance. She disappeared after leaving a family lunch at her parents' house in Rathgar. Brennan's father went to her apartment because she had not come to the family home for 2 days. He rang the doorbell. He then went over to the Horse and Hound pub which the Brennan family owned and asked the barman to come over, and they broke a window to get in. The jacket she had worn on the day she was last seen was there, so Brennan must have gone back to her apartment that day. There was no initial police investigation known to the family for around 3 months. The Brennan family have criticised the police on how they dealt with their daughter's disappearance. Eva Brennan remains missing to this day.
The disappearance and death of Thora Chamberlain. Thora Chamberlain was born on the 22nd of November 1930 and attended Campbell High School in Campbell, California. On November 2nd, 1945, she finished her last class of the day. She was walking with her friends along the sidewalk in front of her school, and she had planned to attend a football field to watch a game. Her friend saw her talking to a man who was sitting in the car for a few minutes. Thora said to her friend that this man needed someone to babysit his younger siblings for half an hour or so. Thora got into the car and said she would be back shortly. She was never seen again. Her friends gave a description of the man, saying he wore a US Navy uniform and had military medals, including the Purple Heart. Law enforcement had a suspect by the name of Thomas Henry McMonagle. He had left to go to Illinois to see his dad, but he came back later by bus to San Francisco, where he tried to commit suicide by taking an overdose of pills. He was rushed to the hospital. FBI agents arrested him as soon as he was discharged. McMonagle never served in the US Navy and confessed he stole the uniform and medals from a Foot Locker off of a real serviceman. He later admitted killing Thora. He gave several different accounts of how he killed her and where he disposed of her body. In one statement, he said he shot her by accident in his car while he was driving, and she bled on the car's padding and upholstery, which he tore out and buried. FBI agents later recovered the burial site in a drainage ditch near McMonagle's workplace. The items were stained in blood. There was also a bullet hole in McMonagle's car door. He said he removed it and buried it under a certain tree in his backyard. The FBI later found it and determined it had been fired from McMonagle's .32 caliber Colt revolver. McMonagle said he threw Thora's body off a 350-foot cliff known as the Devil's Slide, which overlooks Half Moon Bay on the San Mateo County coast. At McMonagle's workplace, they found Thora's school books, shoes, and other belongings that he had buried. Cops searched the area of the cliff and found a pair of Thora's socks in the crevice down the side of the cliff face, which her parents later identified. McMonagle was charged with her murder, despite the fact that her body has never been recovered. He was sentenced to die in the gas chamber, and he was executed in 1948. Sadly, no other trace of Thora Chamberlain was ever recovered.
The case of Imelda Keenan. Imelda Keenan, 22, of Mount Mellick, County Laois, went missing on January 3, 1994. She was living in Waterford City, County Waterford. She had initially gone to stay with one of her brothers in Cove, County Cork, but left it after a short while she went to stay with 2 other brothers in Waterford City. She was living with her boyfriend at the time. They both lived in an apartment in the town of William Street. She attended the Central Technical Institute in Waterford, where she undertook a computer course for a short period. On the day of her disappearance, Imelda told her boyfriend she was going to the post office. Imelda left the apartment at 1:30 p.m. and walked down William Street onto Lombard Street. The last known sighting of Imelda is at this time, when she was seen crossing the road by a local doctor's secretary. The secretary observed Imelda crossing the road at the corner of the Tower Hotel and Lombard Street. She was never seen again. In 2014, family members marked the anniversary of Imelda's disappearance. Imelda's mother, Elizabeth, sadly died in 2008, not knowing what became of her daughter. Imelda's brother Donald said, "I don't think Mammy could rest in peace. Every mother likes to know where her baby is. That's what we want to know. We need our sister." He also said, kneeling at his parents' grave, "On my knees, I beg you, just give us our sister. He later admitted he finds it difficult to believe that Imelda is still alive. He also went on to say, "We are not looking for justice for Imelda, we are looking for Imelda," said Mr. Keenan. "We do not wish for anyone to be held to account for what may or may not have happened to Imelda. We just want Imelda. Any person or persons over 20 years now that remain silent, we release and fully understand the difficulty that this is for you now to be asked to break your silence." He also said, "Closure for you and closure for the Keenan family is what's at stake." Imelda Keenan remains missing to this day. Today's video will be on the disappearance of Philip Kearns. On the afternoon of the 23rd of October 1986, Philip Kearns, while walking back to school in South Dublin, disappeared. The 13-year-old schoolboy left his home in Ballyroan to return to school but has not been seen since. A large-scale investigation was carried out but no trace of the boy has ever been found. His disappearance is now treated as a high-profile child murder case. It is one of the most high-profile disappearances in recent Irish history. 6 days after his disappearance, Philip's school bag was located by two girls in an alley close to his house. The lane had already been searched and the bag was not there at that time. The school bag was thought to hold vital clues, but nothing is known of how it came to be in the lane. It is thought the bag had been left there a short time previously. It was examined forensically, but no clues were located. Philip's implements, including pens, pencils, copybook, maths, textbook, school journal, and his pencil case, were within. Some of Philip's books were missing, including a geography book and 2 religion books. A forensic examination produced no clues as to Philip's whereabouts. Gardaí have sealed the bag and it is now locked in a safe. In May 2016, a woman contacted Gardaí to tell them that she suspected former DJ and convicted paedophile Eamon Cook of having killed Philip Kearns. Gardaí questioned Cook and he was reported to have confirmed some details, but not to have revealed the location of Philip's body. He died in June 2016. In August 2016, it was announced that DNA samples taken from Philip's school bag did not match Cook, but he had not been ruled out as a suspect. Gardaí also sought to identify 2 people who may have left Philip's school bag in the laneway. The disappearance of Philip Kearns affected the entire country. The case was particularly unusual because it happened in the early afternoon and prompted parents to fear for the safety of their children, even in broad daylight. The case remains open to this day. The disappearance of Mary Boyle. Mary Boyle was a 6-year-old girl who disappeared on the County Donegal-Fermanagh border on the 18th of March 1977. To date, her disappearance is the longest missing child case in the Republic of Ireland. Mary Boyle was last seen at 3:30 on the 18th of March 1977 near her grandparents' farm in Ballyshannon, County Donegal. She had been playing outside with her siblings and 2 cousins, and then followed her uncle, who was returning a ladder to another farm 400 yards across the hillside, where they had reached a small pool of water that was too deep for her to get through. Either her uncle told her to go back or Boyle decided for herself, but she turned around halfway into the journey saying she was going back. The walk back for Boyle should not have lasted longer than 5 minutes, whilst her uncle stayed at the neighbours for 30 minutes chatting with the family that he had returned the ladder to. After discovering that Boyle had disappeared, her family instituted searches of the local area and questioned passerbys if they had seen the girl. One fisherman was quoted as saying that he had seen Boyle being put into a red car and then driven away, although he later corrected this in the BBC podcast by saying he had not actually seen Boyle, but just a suspicious red car. The police started a search of the surrounding area and drained the lake behind her grandparents' farm. They also created a reconstruction of the disappearance. Anne, Mary Boyle's twin sister, was used in the film as Mary. The initial investigation has been subjected to several accusations of political interference and police incompetence. In March 2018, police issued a request for information regarding the case and stated that the investigation was still live. Mary Boyle remains missing to this day.
Robert Houlihan disappearance and death. This is the sad and nearly forgotten case of Robert Houlihan. Robert Houlihan was 11 years old when he went missing on the 4th of January 2005. He was from Ballyedmond, a townland near Middleton, County Cork. He was the son of Majella and Mark Houlihan and was the eldest of 3. He had a sister called Emma and a brother named Harry. He was popular in his school and he loved GAA and was a member of a local pony club. He owned his own pony, as Mum Majella said. He also loved the outdoor life. Robert and his mother had lunch together on Tuesday, the 4th of January 2005. He was excited as he got a new BMX bike for Christmas and he loved it. He loved this new bike. He was also fiercely proud of a medal he just received from the Middleton GAA club. After lunch, Robert was seen by his mum playing on his new bike, building a ramp and speeding over it. Soon after 2 p.m, Robert rode his bike out of the driveway of his home. Majella never saw her son alive again. Robert's body was found on the 12th of January. He was missing for 8 days. His body was found in 2 black plastic bags in a ditch at Inch, around 12 miles from his home. They found a complete set of fingerprints on the plastic bags. They also found his BMX bike, which also had a perfect set of fingerprints. The prints didn't belong to Robert or anyone else in his family or the person who found the bike during the search for Robert. These prints would eventually lead to Wayne O'Donoghue. Wayne was friends with Robert. Robert called over to Wayne's house the day he disappeared. Wayne was 20 years old. According to O'Donoghue's account, in his statement on the 4th of January, Robert called to his house and asked him to drive him to McDonald's for a milkshake. When Wayne refused this, Robert started throwing stones at him and at his car. Wayne said, "I walked over to him and I put my right arm around his neck. I jerked him away from the bike towards the rear right-hand side of the car. I released the grip with my right hand and I was still holding him with my left hand by the scruff of his neck. Nothing was said between us at this stage. I then moved my left hand up to his Adam's apple. He was against the rear right-hand side of my car. I said, 'Will you stop at the fucking stones?' I can't describe how tight I held him. I don't know how long I had him held, but it seemed very short. I did not intend to cause him any harm or injury. When I removed my left hand from his throat, he just fell to the ground. I did not realize at the time he had been hurt. I called his name and he didn't answer. He slumped down at my feet and I called his name again and again, and I shook his jacket to get a response. When I got no response, I realized there was something wrong. I decided to bring him back to my house." There's more on Wayne's statement that I will put a link up to in this video. But anyway, search for Robert did grip the nation when he was missing. Wayne O'Donoghue himself partook in the search. On the night of the killing, Wayne even rang Robert's phone in Majella's presence under the pretense of trying to find him, knowing he was dead. Robert Houlihan was buried on January 15. Wayne was charged with the manslaughter of Robert on January 17th. In December of the same year, he was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter on the 10th day of his trial at the Central Criminal Court. In the following month, he was sentenced to just 4 years in prison, which is ridiculous, which was to run from the date of his arrest a year earlier. Since the trial, Robert's parents had a 4th child, a girl, in 2008. That's 3 years after Robert's murder. O'Donoghue was released from prison in 2008 and moved to England to study. He used the first name Patrick instead of Wayne. He got his first class honours degree in architecture at Leeds Metropolitan University and joined an architectural firm in 2011. It's sad that this case hasn't received much publicity over the years. I personally remember this case and reading about it every day in the newspapers like The Sun, The Mirror or The Star, and hoping he would be found safe, but sadly that was not meant to be. The disappearance of Mary Virginia Carpenter. Mary Virginia Carpenter, who went by her middle name Virginia, was born in Texarkana, Texas on the 25th of January 1927. She was an only child to parents Floyd and Hazel Carpenter. She was last seen in Denton, Texas on the 1st of June 1948. She went to Texarkana Union Station and boarded a train to Denton and arrived 6 hours later. She packed a brown trunk, makeup case and a black pasteboard hat box. She was on her way to the Texas State College for Women campus, the TSCW, now Texas Women's University, to enroll in the summer course. Virginia previously attended the University of Arkansas and studied journalism, but transferred to the Texas State College for Women to study a career as a laboratory technician. While Virginia was on the train heading for Denton, she met Marjorie Webster, a middle-aged school teacher who was also enrolling in the TSCW from Texarkana. After arriving in Denton, the two women got a taxi cab driven by Edgar Ray Jack Zachary to take them to the college dorms. As Marjorie was being dropped off at the Fitzgerald dormitories, Virginia realized that she forgot to check on her trunk at the Denton train station. She asked Zachary how much it would be to take her back to the station, to which he replied 75 cents. Marjorie asked if she needed to ride back with her, but Virginia refused, stating, "No, I'll go alone, I'll be alright." After arriving again at the station, Virginia went inside to get her trunk, but came back a few minutes later claiming that she could not get it. She spoke to a railroad employee named Mr. Buttrell, who told her the trunk would not arrive until later. Zachary told Virginia to sign the back of her claim check and that he would pick it up for her and deliver it to her in the morning. Virginia agreed and gave him her luggage receipt after writing Mary Virginia Carpenter, room 200, Breckenridge, and $1 for an extra tip. Upon arriving at Breckenridge Hall at 9:30 p.m, Zachary said he saw a yellow or cream coloured Pontiac parked in the front. There was no moon and the street lights were out due to repair work on a cable. He reported that Virginia walked up to the vehicle, which had two young men standing by it. One of them was tall, the other was short and stocky. She said, "Well, what are you all doing here?" He said it seemed as though she was surprised to see them. The shorter boy talked to her and lifted her up on the curb. Virginia told Zachary to place her luggage on the ground because the boys will get them for her and leave her trunk there in the morning as well. After doing so, Zachary drove off and did not hear the rest of the conversation. That was the last time anyone had seen Virginia. The taxi cab driver, Zachary, he took 2 polygraph tests and passed. Search parties searched the woods, tanks, storm drains, creeks, country roads and abandoned wells. A reward was offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of people responsible. It reached $1,368 and it went up as high as $3,000. On June 9, 1955, 7 years after her disappearance, Virginia Carpenter was considered officially dead. On the 18th of October 1959, a 3x wooden box was discovered containing female bones including the skull in a smokehouse near an abandoned farmhouse outside of Jefferson, Texas. The bones matched the height and weight of Virginia and were sent for examination. Her mother had hopes it was her daughter's remains because the bones had a deformity in the right leg which made it shorter than the left, similar to her daughter's. The dental work did not match Virginia, however. Her father died in 1942, 6 years before Virginia's disappearance, and her mother died in 1980. Her mother believed her daughter was dead, but hoped at least to find her daughter's body before her own death. Sadly, Mary Virginia Carpenter is still missing to this day, and her case was never closed, but remains cold.
Case of Tabitha Tudors. Tabitha is thought to have left her home sometime after 7:30 a.m. on April 29, 2003 to catch a school bus at the nearby intersection of her neighbourhood. She did not board the bus nor attend school. 13-year-old Tabitha vanished somewhere between her home and bus stop. One neighbour saw her heading to school, but a neighbourhood boy said he saw her getting into a red car about 30 to 40 yards from where she was last seen. But the neighbourhood boy got it wrong. It was actually a green car Tabitha got into. Tabitha was supposed to go visit the Six Flags of America amusement park in Louisville, Kentucky, 2 weeks after she disappeared, and was very excited about the trip. She left behind all her possessions, including her clothes, makeup, and $20 in cash. Police searched the logs of a computer at the local public library where Tabitha is said to have visited internet chat rooms, but turned up no information pertaining to her disappearance. On October 30, 2003, a trucker reported a possible sighting of Tabitha from Linton, Indiana. The trucker saw a girl accompanied by a man and another teenage girl. The girl, who looked like Tabitha, appeared to be anxious and afraid. Later, when he saw a missing persons flyer of Tabitha, he realized that she resembled the girl he'd seen and contacted police. A hotel clerk in Linton also saw a girl resembling Tabitha with a man and a teenage girl and reported it. August 19, 2003, almost 5 months after Tabitha's disappearance, an 11-year-old girl named Heaven Ross disappeared while on her way to school in Northport, Alabama. Her remains were found in Holt, Alabama, 3 years after her disappearance. Her murder remains unsolved. Like Tabitha, Ross had light-coloured hair and disappeared in the morning hours on the way to school. Authorities are considering a possible connection between the girls' cases, though the distance between Nashville and Northport is great, and so far no evidence has been uncovered to link the two cases. In August 2020, Nashville police are searching an area in rural Hickman County where Tabitha Tudors may have been around in 2003, the same year she disappeared. The search is on a rugged, mostly wooded 6-acre piece of land in the Bonacqua area. Officers said the property was recently purchased and includes an abandoned house. The 17-year search for Tabitha has spanned across the country, and officers say they won't give up until she's found. An investigator said officers have looked long and far and will continue to look to wherever it takes us. The case remains unsolved, and Tabitha Tudors is still missing to this day. The case of Autumn Pasquale. Autumn Pasquale disappeared on October 20th, 2012, after leaving her father's home on her white BMX bike. Autumn was last seen at 12:30 in the afternoon, according to police, and relatives reported her missing at 9:30 p.m. that night. For the better part of 2 days, 200 law enforcement officials and hundreds of local residents from this middle-class town of 8,000 distributed flyers with her image and combed its streets and fields and wooded areas looking for traces of her. After a 2-day search, she was found strangled in a recycling container near the home of the 2 teenage brothers later charged in her killing. Justin Robinson murdered Autumn Pasquale. He pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter after initially being charged with murder. His brother Dante, also charged with murder, admitted to 4th-degree obstruction and was jailed for 11 months. Justin Robinson received 17 years in jail for the murder of Autumn Pasquale.
She searching somebody to fix her bike. I told her, I'll fix it for you. So we went in the basement. I told her, I said, yeah, I got you, fix your bike. But she said, I'll pay you, if you do it for me. I fixed it up or whatever. So she's like, thanks. So I'm like, what about the money? The money was $10. That was the money she was gonna pay me. I said, what about the money? She's like, oh no, I was playing. Like, yeah, I was really looking forward to the money. So I'm like, you know, you can't get the bike unless you give me the money. So she's like, nah, I got you, I'll pay you later or whatever. I need it now. So she drops the bike, she hit me. I backed into a corner in my basement in the house. So, you know, she started hitting me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to hit her physically. I didn't put my hands on females, ladies. I don't want to do anything of that. But, you know, it just, I didn't really know what else to do. I just wanted to make her stop, you know what I'm saying? I just threw my hands around her neck, and then I just choked her until she stopped hitting me. And when she, like, went limp, I just let her go. When I let her go, I just... A lot of people thought I planned it, but there's nothing planned about this. At the time, like, I didn't know what to do, you know what I'm saying? I didn't just say, oh, I'm gonna choke her and then kill her, that'll make her stop. I didn't think that, I didn't say that. It just happened. But that's one thing about the case that, you know, it was blown up. They made me look like a stone cold murderer, and I'm not that. I was just a regular kid.
The case of William Gaffney. William was last seen in the hallway outside his New York apartment. He was playing with two neighbor boys, a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old. The older boy went inside his apartment, and when he returned, both William and the 3-year-old were gone. Sources say the 3-year-old boy was found on the roof of the apartment building. When questioned about William, he stated that the boogeyman had taken the child. Investigators originally doubted the 3-year-old's story and thought William had simply wandered off. They searched neighbourhood factory buildings and local canals without result, and concluded that the child had in fact been abducted. The 3-year-old described the boogeyman as a slender elderly man with grey hair and a grey moustache. Later that day, a streetcar motorman noticed an elderly man attempting to pacify a small boy. The boy, who did not have a coat or hat on although the weather was cold, was crying and saying he wanted to go home and see his mother. Albert Fish was arrested in 1934 for the murder of William Gaffney. Fish confessed to William's murder and the slaying of several other children. He pleaded insanity, was convicted and sentenced to death. The body of William Gaffney has not been found to this day.
Varun Stanberry. Varun Stanberry was born on the 26th of August 1961. He has been missing since the 1st of May 1980. He was 18 years old when he went missing. He told his loved ones he wanted to see the world. He began travelling around the country, calling home at least once a month to assure his family that he was safe. His family last heard from him in May or June of 1980 when he called them from the International Hotel where he was staying in San Francisco, and that he lost his job and was short of money. He asked his mother for some money, but she refused to send him any. That same day he called his grandmother and told her he loved her. His grandmother stated nothing seemed amiss during the conversation. Varun never contacted his loved ones again. After several weeks they got in touch with the hotel and discovered he left abruptly, leaving his possessions behind and owing rent. His family stated this was uncharacteristic of his behaviour. They believe he is deceased, but the circumstances surrounding his disappearance are unclear. Oregon police are investigating.
The case of Fiona Sinnott. Fiona Sinnott, 19, of Rosslare, County Wexford, went missing on February 8, 1998. She was living in Broadway, County Wexford. Fiona was last seen leaving Butler's pub in Broadway. She left the pub with her ex-boyfriend and father to her 11-month-old daughter, Sean Carroll. During his conversation with investigators, Carroll told them that he had walked Sinnott back to her house in Ballyhit, Wexford, and that he had spent the night sleeping on her couch. Sinnott, who had been complaining of pains in her arm and upper body, had gone straight to bed, and that the next morning, on Monday, February 9th, Carroll said that he walked into Sinnott's bedroom and saw she was awake. According to Carroll, Sinnott had told him that she was still in pain and that she had intended on hitching a lift to her physician later that day. Because Sinnott said that she had no money, Carol told Gardaí that he had given her £3. He then left the house and took a lift from his mother, who was waiting in a car outside. Carol and his mother then drove back to their family home, which was where Sinnott and Carol's daughter Emma had been staying at that time. Fiona Sinnott was never seen again. During the investigation into Sinnott's disappearance, it was discovered that she did not see a doctor that day. There were no records of her having visited any of the surgeries in the vicinity. The investigation also failed to find any evidence that she had been thumbing for a lift. During a technical examination of Sinnott's house, police noticed that it had been stripped bare of a number of her personal belongings. Later, locals would report that they had seen a number of black bags outside her house. As news of Sinnott's disappearance continued to spread, a local farmer approached police with news that he had discovered a number of black bags in the corner of one of his fields. Inside, he had found a number of items and documents that had Sinnott's name written on them. Unfortunately, the farmer had set fire to these bags as he initially thought that it was just another case of illegal dumping. It wasn't until news of Sinnott's disappearance reached him that he realized how significant they were. It was at this point that investigators began to suspect that somebody was trying to mislead them into thinking that Sinnott had run away. On September 12, 2008, a memorial plaque for Sinnott was stolen from a cemetery in Our Lady's Island in Wexford. The marble plaque, which had been bolted into the wall, was removed the night before it was due to be unveiled. Throughout the years, several searches have been carried out, from lakes to private homes. Her family have been investigating and searching for her ever since her disappearance. Fiona Sinnott is still missing to this day. The case of Amy Fitzpatrick. Amy Fitzpatrick went missing on 1st of January 2008 at 10 p.m. when she left her friend's house in the tourist resort of Riviera del Sol on the Costa del Sol to take the 10-minute walk to her house. Amy should have arrived at her home a few minutes later, as it was only a short walk away. She never arrived home and has not been heard from or seen since that night. Following her disappearance, a search involving hundreds of people was launched. In August 2008, the home of Mahon and Fitzpatrick's lawyer in Riviera del Sol was broken into and a laptop that was used in the search for Fitzpatrick was stolen. In addition, Fitzpatrick's Nokia mobile phone was stolen. The 32-year-old lawyer, Juan Jose, said the burglars got into his property by forcing a locked garden gate. He said the stolen documents included confidential police reports of Fitzpatrick's disappearance. I believe the burglary was related to Fitzpatrick's disappearance. It makes no sense that they took documents which financially are worthless and left behind all my expensive valuables like TVs, computers, and music equipment. In June 2009, Audrey Fitzpatrick received a telephone call from a man claiming he knew the location of Amy Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick described the caller as having an African accent, asking her if she was Fitzpatrick's mother. Audrey Fitzpatrick said that the police and her private investigators followed up on the call, but led to a dead end. According to her friend Ashley Rose, Amy apparently had two phones, her Irish one and a Spanish one. Her Spanish one was smashed, so Amy used her Irish one to phone her mom at one point during her sleepover. That phone was found in Amy's bedroom after she went missing. If Amy never made it home, how did her phone? Amy Fitzpatrick is still missing to this day.
Michael Negrete, disappearance 1999. Michael Negrete, or Negrete, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, was born on the 25th of March 1981. Michael was a freshman at UCLA in California when he went missing on the 10th of December 1999. He lived on the 6th floor of Dykstra Hall dormitory on campus, which is located near the intersection of Gailey Avenue and Strathmore Boulevard. On the day he went missing, Michael, or Mike, as his friends knew him, attended a party with his friends on the floor he lived on, then returned later to his room. He then played an online computer game with a friend in another room. At 4 a.m. he finished the game and went to his friend's room to congratulate the other player. He was last seen by this friend returning to his room. Michael Negrete was never seen again. Mike's roommate awoke at 9 a.m. and noticed Mike was gone, but his clothing, shoes, wallet, keys and musical instruments were all still there. Authorities believe he left his room between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. that day. Search dogs tracked Mike's scent to Sunset Boulevard and Bellagio Street in Los Angeles, but no other evidence was located. There were possible key witnesses who may have seen someone matching Michael's description leaving the building at 4:35 a.m., but this was never substantiated, however. Authorities released a sketch of a possible witness in the Negrete's case. In the year 2000, the unidentified man, who was described as Caucasian, was seen inside Dykstra Hall at 4:35 a.m. on December 10th. Investigators do not know if this person is connected to Michael's case or if he did indeed witness anything, but they would like to question him, however. The man was around mid-30s, an average height with a large build. He was wearing a grey jacket. Mike didn't own a car at the time of his disappearance, and the LAPD bloodhounds traced his scent to a bus stop across from the campus. However, investigators subsequently said that the dogs were confused and the scent could not be trusted. The police searched all over campus looking for Mike, including the garbage chutes and construction sites, but nothing ever came of that. More than 500 leads were submitted to police, but nothing came from any of them either. Michael left behind his parents and 2 younger brothers. He loved playing video games and was a skilled trumpet and steel drum player. He was in college on a music scholarship at the time of his disappearance. There has been no activity on any of his credit cards. LAPD consider his disappearance to be suspicious and have categorized his disappearance as a homicide case. Sadly, no trace of Michael Negrete has been found to this day. This is the story of the Sumter County Does, Jock and Jane Doe. On August 9, 1976, a young man and a young woman were seen on a dirt road, lying on their backs, deceased. The victims may have been carjacked by hitchhikers. The male victim was first believed to be 18 to 22 years old, but a dentist checked his teeth and said he could have been as old as 27. He had brown hair, shoulder-length hair, brown eyes, and was over 6 feet tall. He was wearing Levi jeans and a red t-shirt. He wore a yellow gold Belova Accrington wristwatch. He also wore a 14-karat gold ring set with a grey star sapphire stone. The initials JPF were engraved inside the ring. The female victim was slightly younger than that of the man. She was estimated to be 18 to 25 years old. She was 5 feet 5 inches tall and had a slim build and had an olive complexion like that of her companion. This led some observers to speculate they may have been siblings. She had reddish brown hair and blue eyes. She wore an unbleached white muslin blouse over a pink front tying halter top. She also wore blue denim cut-off shorts. She wore 3 rings. She had no underwear on, just like that of her companion. Each victim had been shot 3 times in the upper chest. They were shot by a .357 caliber revolver in the Sumter County of South Carolina. The male victim had been referred to as Jock Doe, which may have originated from the French name Jock, an indication that he may have been from French Canada. A man who claimed he had met the victims stated he was told by the male victim that he had left his Canadian family with his girlfriend and that his father was a wealthy, well-known doctor, which supported the theory that his family was wealthy. Both victims were very clean and well-groomed. In 2007, both bodies were exhumed to obtain DNA information. This led to the theory of the pair had been siblings being disproved. The testing showed that they were not genetically related, although they did resemble one another. The DNA Doe Project, which is an organisation working to resolve unidentified decedent cases, was recruited in July 2019 for assistance to identify the then unidentified couple. A total of $2,300 was donated to fund the extraction of usable DNA profiles from bone marrow for genetic genealogy research. On October 12, 2020, they released the results from their genealogical tests of the victims' ancestral backgrounds. In January the following year, the organisation announced that they had successfully aided with the victims' identification as a pair of American hitchhikers. They were identified as Pamela Buckley and James Paul Fruin on January 21st, 2021 at a press conference. James Fruin was born on September 16, 1946, and he was 29 years old when he died. Pamela Buckley was born on December 16, 1951, and was 24 when she died. They were both reported missing in 1975. So the JPF stood for James Paul Fruin, which is interesting. I have been interested in this story for a couple of years now. I was excited to learn they had finally been identified. As a very interesting case, and may they both rest in peace.